Hello there, this is David McHugh coming from Life Therapy, and this talk is all about sleep and specifically how to improve your sleep. I don't know if you realise, but sleep is hugely important for healing, both physically and emotionally. And if you've got emotional issues, or obviously if you've got physical issues, perhaps you've got something wrong with your back or something, that's going to affect your sleep, and vice versa. Your sleep's going to affect the recovery of your pain issue, or emotional pain, physical pain, things like that. So sleep is nature's way of repairing ourselves, and it's the first indication that maybe things are not going right, or there's a problem, a deeper problem that we need to address. So, I want to say the obvious, but sleep's one of the things that we don't look at, either as an indication that something's wrong, or if we're not getting the sleep we need, that it's not going to provide the sort of healing we need to recover from various emotional issues and physical issues. So obviously, if you've got physical issues going on, you check out with your health professional to find out if there's something you can fix normally. And likewise with your sleep, we look at some really obvious things, and we'll be going through some of the obvious things which you can check and make sure that you're doing correctly. And if there are sleep problems persisting, that's the key word here, persisting, then we can look at do-it therapy and things like that. We can look at underlying problems that may not be physiological or even psychological, but something deeper that we need to address. So the first step is to look at some of the common sense things, and then move on from there. It's like a checklist. That's the way to look at it. So on this talk, I'm going to go through some of those basic points, and then towards the end we're going to look at some of the interventions we can do to improve our sleep. And as I say, if all those things fail and you're still having issues with sleeping, you can't sleep properly, then by all means get back to me and we can book a session, and we can do some hypnotherapy or whatever's needed. So if that makes sense. So if you feel confident that you've gone through this checklist, I think I've talked about these things before in this group, the Life Therapy group. So you can skip to the end part of this and look at some of the interventions I'm going to mention later. If you want to refresh, then go through the talk as I'll go through the basic stuff, and you can look at some of the interventions I'm going to give at the end of this talk. So with that, I will get on with things. So medication. That's the first step. Some people use medication to go to sleep, or they may be on medication from your doctor, and obviously this can affect your sleeping patterns. So if you want to look at some physical product, there are natural products which are quite user-friendly, if you like to use the term, such as valerian root. I'll spell that for you, VALERIAN, tart cherry, and also you could check out things like magnesium. There's also slow release melatonin, which can be prescribed by your doctor or health professional, mainly doctor I suppose, and that can be taken an hour before bedtime. So these things might just be all that you need, but as I say, just check with your GP, health professional, just to make sure that you're not interfering with any medication you're currently taking. Briefly, I want to talk about sleep, melatonin, and our neurology. because this is an issue that a lot of people don't realize. They've got a lot of these electronic devices, not just the television, but they've got the computers, the monitors, the mobile phones, and they're all chucking out a lot of electromagnetic pulses. And to cut a long story short, we're designed as animals to sleep at night, and there's a little gland here, the pineal gland. I think it's the size of a pea or something. It's not a very big gland, but it releases melatonin when it's dark. So when we get shading, or when the daylight starts to go into nighttime, the melatonin is released by the pineal gland, and this allows us to have a very deep healing sleep. And the problem is, in our modern 21st century, we stay up because we've got natural lighting and things like that, and we have these social programs going on, and everyone's socializing and doing their thing. So we stay up much later than we would normally stay up. And this creates a problem because those initial, I suppose, initial hour before sunset, the melatonin has been released by our pineal gland, assuming we have a healthy operating pineal gland. Some people have calcified pineal glands which don't really work, so it's particularly if you're drinking things like a lot of fluoride in your drinking water and things like that. Over a period of time, and we're talking years here, we're not talking about days or weeks or months, we will have a calcification going on with the pineal gland. So that's one issue. But assuming everything's okay, particularly for young people, you quite likely will have melatonin release, but you're staying up. So what happens? We hit the coffee and the stimulants, the sugar drinks, because we're feeling a bit sleepy, which is our natural thing to do when it's twilight and we go into dark nighttime, and our body wants to shut down and go to sleep to repair and do the maintenance and repair function. So we don't want to do that. We've got our modern 21st century lifestyle, and we're going to party, or we perhaps go out to work, or maybe working late, studying late, doing all these things that we do. So we've got to pump ourselves up with some coffee and stimulants. And of course, when sleep comes, when we want to go to bed, we're all hyped up, all our melatonin is gone, and suddenly we decide, oh, I want to go to sleep now. But your body's nicely fired up. So that's another issue. You might have to adjust your lifestyle to suit your body, rather than get your body to suit a dysfunctional lifestyle. Sorry to sound rude, but so you could try that, just changing your lifestyle and experiment. Take a week and say, right, okay, I'm going to pretend my body will respond to a normal daylight, day to nighttime cycle. We are diurnal creatures. Otherwise we work in the daytime, not the nighttime. So if we return our lifestyle to something which is compatible with our bodies and our neurology, that might well do the trick. So hopefully that will make sense. And as I say, the modern industrialized society with its artificial lighting interrupts our normal sleep patterns. The electromagnetic energy from the different electrical equipment basically tricks our pineal gland into thinking it's daytime. That's one of the problems. So if you have a If your bedroom has a lot of electronic equipment in it, don't just turn them off, stop the electricity going into them, unplug them, and just see if that makes a difference. So by the process of elimination, you can get to a place where you're happy with your sleep. But each person is different, is sensitive in a different way. So one person might be more sensitive to coffee, caffeine, chemicals, stimulants. Another person might be more sensitive to the electromagnetic interference. So you'll have to experiment with yourself to find out what your triggers are, what is actually interrupting your sleep, and things like that. So that's one way of going. We need to check that list off. There are what they call blue light on screens and things that would be helpful. So if you're doing a lot of screen work at night time, you can make sure that you've got a blue light in the monitor, and that will not interfere so much with the melatonin production. Pardon me. There's a psychological component in terms of sleep, because we want the association of our bedtime, our bedroom, to be with sleep or sex, one of the two, but we want it to be associated with relaxation or sex or something like this, but not normal outside activity. So that when we go in, we start to trigger the relaxation response, and that will make it much easier for us to switch off and go into sleep mode. So make sure your bedroom's comfortable temperature. Some people find reading before they sleep quite relaxing. Other people will perhaps find reading stimulating. So once again, you have to experiment to find what suits you. Check things like your mattress. Is that comfortable? Is that causing problems? Things like they've got some really good pillows which you can experiment with, and that might make a little bit of difference. So during the day we can do things in our lifestyle which are going to encourage good sleep patterns. For example, proper sunlight exposure during the day to really give our neurology the experience of what normal is. So we want to try and get the contrast between daytime and nighttime. So if you're in probably a dark, if it's winter for example, and you're in a country that's a lot of overcast, a lot of clouds, try and get out when it's a bit sunny, have a nice healthy walk, get invigorated, do a bit of exercise, and really start to get the contrast between ordinary physical activity and sleeping activity. Rewilding is sort of a popular thing nowadays, connecting with nature. And there's always a bit of nature around, even in built up areas like metropolitan areas, towns. There's parks, things like that. We can always find a place which has a lot of nature, and nature is a very calming and connecting sort of environment. So if we can take time out to make sure that we're getting enough exposure to normal environments. I did mention about setting a scene for sleep. Obviously there is a sort of a winding down process before you go to sleep. You don't want to be doing very strenuous or mentally demanding activities, so stagger your timetable so that before you go to sleep you're doing less intensive type activities. Obviously not things like studying and things like that just before you go to sleep, but something a bit more low key. So you're not going from very high energy activities to literally no activity, which is the sort of activity you want when you go to sleep. So graduated a bit. Obviously don't have your internet going before you go to sleep. So for a couple of hours before you go to sleep, you know, you shouldn't be texting and going on YouTube and things like this. You want to be getting the mental stimulation down. I'd say this might be very common sense to a lot of people, but it's surprising how many people haven't made this connection. They treat their bodies a bit like their car. You know, you turn the engine on and that's it. You should be doing whatever activity that you think you should be doing, but the body and mind don't really work like this. You've got to cooperate with your psychology and your neurology and things like this, and your physicality, to get the best out of it. We're not machines in one sense. I've got here things like meditation, relaxation after work. Obviously stress here is an important issue. We want to be dealing with our stress levels, and if we're not able to deal with our stress levels, we've either got to increase our relaxation or decrease our work levels. So if you're overworked and you come home, you're obviously going to have, sleep's going to be more of an issue if you're not dealing with the stress related to that work activity. Similarly, if you've got an ongoing trauma, you're going to have difficulty perhaps sleeping more, so you need to be addressing any underlying traumas. And you may not be aware of the trauma at this stage. If you're having sleep problems, that might be the first indication that there is an issue with trauma, unresolved trauma that hasn't been healed or dealt with. So sleep can pick up those issues. But we first need to do the basics to see whether it's something in our lifestyle that we're not doing correctly. So before bedtime, we do gentle activities like writing up our diary, our gratitude journal, for example. Take a nice warm bath or shower. Perhaps drink a nice warm milky drink. And your herbal drinks, things like that, to help you sleep. When you're in bed, try and avoid watching the clock. Aromatherapy, that's an interesting one. Smells can be quite powerful to help relax us. Lavender, orange oil. The bedroom can be quiet, but not total silence. That sometimes doesn't work. If you get too conditioned to have no sound in your room, it sort of like can make you a bit edgy. What we'll do, so waking at night, yeah, some people find they can go to sleep but then they wake up and then they can't get back to sleep. So yeah, I think this is a sort of part of having a sleep problem, but it's more on the opposite side. Yeah, still go through the checklist and treat it as a going to sleep problem rather than a separate issue. There's in this article, I've posted this talk in a post which has got a lot of other tips here, and there's some articles that you can read related to improving your sleep, so you're welcome to have a look at those. But that basically concludes looking at the background lifestyle that could be causing issues for your sleep or sleep problems. This last part now is I'm just going to give you a breathing and body observation technique, which is very useful, and it can make the difference between going to sleep and having problems going to sleep. So you can use these two exercises together, or if you relate more to one as opposed to the other, you can have them separate. But I'm going to break these down, these two techniques into breathing observation technique and body observation technique. And as you might expect, the breathing exercise uses breath observation as a way to help you relax, and body observation technique to help you relax using observing your body. So let's go through an example. And with this exercise, obviously you want to make yourself comfortable in a well supported armchair, particularly for your head, neck and shoulders. You don't want your head rolling around or anything like that. Ensure that you're not disturbed by family and friends or work colleagues. Mobile devices should be turned off, and you should be pet free. That means no dogs, cats wandering around jumping on you and things like that. The room should be well ventilated and at a comfortable temperature. That's not too hot, not too cold. And just take a few moments to do deep abdominal breathing. You can do your Havening's technique, which is just stroking your body like that, over your head, over your face, and bring it down to your heart area. And you'll find that that triggers a lot of relaxation. And let's start with the breathing observation technique. Focus on your breathing as you expand your abdominal muscles and you draw in air into the lungs. Just might start off with breathing through your nose. In fact, that would be a good idea, just to breathe in through your nose as you expand your abdominal muscles. And as you release your breath, your abdomen contracts and pushes out your air, pushes out that air out of the lungs. And as you do this, notice sensations as air passes against your nostrils, and your attention will wander off onto some other thought, feeling, sensation, memory or emotion. And very gently and easily, when you notice that your attention has wandered off away from observing your breath, to very gently and easily return your attention to your breathing and go along with that again. So you focus on your breathing as you breathe in, and as you exhale, just observe the sensations as that happens. And as your attention wanders off onto any other thought, feeling, sensation, memory or emotion, very gently and easily return your attention to your breathing and go along with that again. And you might do that for 5-10 minutes. Now the next exercise is body observation as a neutral object of our attention. So once again, instead of focusing on your breath, turn your attention to observing your body in a very casual and gentle manner, being aware of any tension or physical sensation of the body. Perhaps you may become aware of temperature, smells, or notice textures associated with bedding, your blankets, etc., and sheeting and things like that. And as your attention wanders off onto any other thought, feeling, sensation, memory or emotion, very gently and easily return your attention once again to your body. Just completing a cycle. Continue moving your attention from observing your body to other thoughts and sensations. In this way, drowsiness and sleepiness are induced and sleep becomes a natural outcome. So if you're doing both techniques together or in unison, you might observe your body, and then you might go and start observing your breath. And when any other attention comes along, whenever other object of your attention takes your attention, very gently and easily return to that observation of your breath or your body. And this way you'll start feeling drowsy and sleepy, and that's a really good place to be if you want to go to sleep. So try these techniques, basically check out your lifestyle, and then you can then move on to these techniques, and try them over a period of weeks, and if you still have problems with going to sleep or not staying asleep as long as you would like, then please get back to me and we will look at resolving perhaps some underlying issues such as trauma, and we can do that quite easily. I do hypnotherapy, and it's a relatively easy job just to clear any previous trauma that has been blocking you, and subconsciously just firing your stress responses and putting you in a position where you're having sleep difficulties. So once again, sleep is a very good way of indicating whether there's something you need to sort out. It is nature's way of repairing and maintaining your system. It's part of the healing process. So if you really feel that you're not getting the sleep that you need, this is a good place to start. And as I say, if you continue to have problems after this talk, then by all means get back to us. So with that, I will finish the talk, and we'll get back and see you again for another talk. Thanks a lot. This is David McHugh from Life Therapy. Bye for now.